Have you ever walked through the streets of San Jose or any other major city in the world and seen a little kid, a teenager, on the streets and wondered what led them there? People always told me the usual thing. Give them food, give them money. But I never actually stopped and reflected for a prolonged period of time about why a kid my age was on the street and I wasn't. The topic of homelessness was brought to my attention because of my mom, who worked with an NGO that dealt with this kind of topics, and the school service learning program. But you could argue my journey actually started when I made the choice of going out and volunteering. I met an unimaginable amount of people that made me realize how essential it is for us to listen and be perceptive, for us to realize that that kid, it could be your son, it could be your daughter, it could even be you. So, I want you to recall people's reaction when the topic of homelessness comes up in a conversation. The face they made, what they said, what they implied. Think about whether you have heard phrases like, they're all lazy, they just don't want to work, or they chose drugs over a stable life. Have you ever seen someone cross the street because there was someone else sketchy, sleeping in the sidewalk? Or most importantly, were you the one thinking those things? Were you the one someone else saw crossing the street? We all have preconceptions about every conceivable topic. That is a given. But for these 17 minutes, I want you to take those and put those aside. Because homeless people are exactly that. People with stories from which you can learn so much. I'm going to share with you the things that volunteering has taught me to give you a better understanding of why these people end up on the streets, what they're pushed to do once they're there, and the effect this has on them. In certain things, I'm going to give a special mention to homeless youth, since this is a formative age in which they're especially vulnerable. So, starting with the reasons why they end up on the streets, one of them would be poverty. In Costa Rica, there's over 300,000 people living in extreme poverty, meaning they lack a great amount of basic needs, like food or water. Imagine it living in one of these households. The food you eat doesn't calm your hunger. You probably feel very dirty because you shower weeks apart. That is if you get the opportunity to shower at all. You have no perfume, you have no toothbrush, and you wear the same old, ripped clothes day after day. Your mom, dad, probably work all day and all night to make ends meet, so you barely see them. Or maybe your caregiver can't even find a job at all, hence the lack of resources. It's understandable why some of these kids want to escape their homes. They're just thinking of escaping the misery they live in, instead of the ramifications this may have in the future. In other cases, it's not even their choice at all. The whole family could end up on the streets because of this financial trouble. It can happen in an instant. One moment you have a place to call home, and the next you're on the street. What many of us don't grasp is that this could happen to anyone. We all go through financial trouble at some point or another. So how do you know it isn't gonna be you next? We have to treat homeless people as we would want to be treated if we had fallen into those hard times. Another reason is family trouble. My mom told me a story about this girl she met through the Child Welfare Institute, or PANI, and her story comes to mind every time I see a young girl about my age on the sidewalk with a tight dress and high heels. She lived on a remote area with her mom, dad, 2 brothers, and baby sister. And she used to go get firewood with her dad and one of her brothers. But one day, her father told her brother to stay home. That day, her father raped her. And the next time they went to get firewood, he did it again and again and again. She felt very alone because she told her mother and she didn't believe her. But one day she realized that instead of returning home after school, she could go to the police station. So she did that, and Pani was contacted. Pani got her out of that house. But because of the mother's decision to not report her husband and instead defend him, they couldn't get her baby sister out. She knew her father was going to do the same thing to her sister when she grew up. So she turned to prostitution, a way that she thought she could make money to get her sister out of that house. This story has a happy ending. She realized this wasn't the right option with the help of professionals. But a lot of young boys and girls don't get this choice. When you're abused sexually, physically, emotionally, your worldview changes. Your self-value just plummets. The person that was supposed to care for you is the one that hurt you the most, while the world just stood watching and you couldn't do anything about it. This is why, when these young people escape their homes, they cannot return to what we would call a normal life. And they instead end up on the streets. The final reason is mental illness. A study in the US carried out by the National Institute of Mental Health found out that approximately 6% of Americans are severely mentally ill, compared to 20 to 25% of the homeless population. This study shows how it is about 4 times more likely to find someone with mental illness on the streets than on our normal daily activities. But why is this? Mental illness decreases a person's interest in self-care. They don't care about maintaining a healthy relationship with others or a stable job. Their delusions out of normal behavior make it impossible for them to live with us. Furthermore, in Costa Rica, we don't have a great quantity of mental health facilities. A study by the World Health Organization in 2008 found out that there are 38 mental health outpatient facilities in the country and 2 mental hospitals in the central area with 22 beds per 100,000 population. That's a very small amount, and they're very centralized. So when you live on a remote area and you have a mental illness, you don't have a choice. The next section focuses on what they're pushed to do once they're on the streets. And this is the part that normally gets the most attention, although it can be heavily misinterpreted without the other 2. You hear about the crimes these people commit while on the streets, not the before or the after. But it is a lot more complex than how it is often portrayed. These people can't find jobs because of the stigma surrounding their condition. And for minors, it is especially hard because they would have to lie in order to get a job. They don't have any options except prostitution, petty theft, and drug dealing. Nobody helps them. They have to turn to these things because they have to survive. But we have to remember 2 things. First, it is not all of them. And second, they don't do it for the sake of being bad, of committing crimes. They do it out of necessity. However, we can't ignore how a lot of the times, instead of buying food or a night at a hotel, when you give them money, they will buy a thing that will get rid of their pain immediately, like drugs or alcohol. So I will address this at once. Drugs, alcohol, they change your feelings, your motivations. They become the only thing on your mind. So you forget about all other things, all the pain, all the misery, the weather, how cold you are at night, how alone you are. And nobody shows interest on them getting better. When you don't think you have value, why would you want to get out of the streets? You think nobody loves you. You think nobody wants you to get better. We should be that push, that human kindness that makes them realize that they are important. Well, I was volunteering. I met another person and asked them how they got involved with the organization. And this man told me that just a couple of months ago, he was on the streets himself. He knew exactly how it felt to be cold, alone, at night, and thinking about the next time he was gonna consume that drug. So of course I asked him how he got sober, and the answer was so much simpler than I could have thought. One night, he met this leader of an organization, and they had a very long chat. And this chat completely changed his life. Because as I said before, this chat made him realize that he was important. Somebody wanted him to get out. Somebody cared for him. I'm not saying that after just one chat with a person that's addicted, they're gonna immediately change, but it is a good step. Finally, what are the effects that homelessness has on the long run? A recurring story I've heard is that those that do find dormitories find things that we will call commodities not comfortable. Having a regular sleep schedule or a place to return to every day is not normal for them. Dormitories have a very strict schedule. You have to eat a certain time, you have to wake up at a certain time, and you have to sleep at a certain time. So going from the lack of consistency of the street to this very regular schedule, it's very hard for them. And add to that the struggles of withdrawal, like anxiety, shakiness, and other things. They cannot get used to this new life. They don't see it as something they want. We cannot expect them to trust a system that they don't know anything about, and that they don't know a person that works there, and just completely trust it and work with them. There's also the physical consequences. People that are homeless are extremely more likely to suffer from illnesses like dental disease or venereal disease, parasite infestations, and malnutrition. And this is very important because it is exactly the reason why they look for drugs. It is a way of coping with that pain that they cannot get rid of because hospitals are incredibly expensive, and when they enter one, they're seen as garbage. Anytime I suffer from a little amount of pain, even for something like a cold, I'm taken to the hospital. But these people that suffer actual diseases they could die from are left on the streets. Like nobody wants them to get better, like nobody wants them to live. We also have to talk about the abuse these people suffer from people that are not homeless. Hate crimes against homeless people are real. They happen. One of the people I met had boiling water thrown at him one morning because he was caught sleeping in the wrong place. The dehumanization of these people makes people that are not homeless think that they are better. And if they're better, they can do whatever they want. They can hurt them, they can kick them, they can stare at them. The way to change this is changing our culture, how the world sees it. Because that's exactly what makes these people think it is okay. Now, I know that was a lot of information to process. Homelessness is not an easy topic at all. It is very emotionally draining because we all know this shouldn't be happening. But I don't want you to lose hope. Find comfort in the fact that you can make a change. If you have time to spare, volunteer. If you have things that you don't need, donate. Even your awareness of the topic can make a huge chain of effects. Thank you.